You're listening to the Better 2 podcast with Dee and Needham. Hi gang, Donna here. I hope you're doing well this evening, or is it morning or afternoon? Who knows? But whenever you're listening to and tuning in, I greatly appreciate it. Some people I know listen to this on their morning walk. And if you are that person, hi, and I hope you're doing well. Maybe it's your evening walk. And maybe it's just your relaxing, podcast and chill. Either way, thanks for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy the show. If you're on an audio podcast, wherever you got it from, Apple, Spotify, Audible, thank you. And if you're watching it on YouTube, and sometimes Instagram and Facebook, which this episode most likely will be up there, I hope you're enjoying it. But today I want to talk to you a little bit about the guest. We are out in LA. And even the next episode, we're going to be out in LA. Seems like it's the place to be today. So the guest I'm talking to, she is an actress, model, musician, author, producer, and well, you may recognize her from the Who Knew video with Pink. And she was also in a Hillary Duff video, and she's done numerous guest starring roles. But the reason we're talking to Katie today, and I know you're like, Katie who? Katie Chiknos, or Keriaki. That's how she basically bills herself as a singer. She talks to us also about her journey of going, not only how she got picked for Pink's video, but she talks about her journey to South Africa, where she was an artist supporting the tour with 50 Cent. The other thing we talk about, though, her Better 2 moment is talking about how sometimes, even though she's got this fantastic career and she does all these things she loves, plus she's an artist. And if you look at when she gets on screen, the object behind her, which I bring up, is a work of art that she has created. But that being said, and it's not very uncommon for creatives, and it's not very uncommon for most of us, that sometimes we fall into a bout of depression or self-doubt. We start psyching ourselves up because there's the fear of failure. But just as much, there's the fear of success. And the big question that everybody likes to pose is, what does success look like? Well, that's an individual choice, isn't it? But wrapped in there is anxiety and fear, because what happens to your mind when you sit there and think, well, if I achieve this, then what's next? Is there anything next? So we talk about that and we unpack that and we talk about numerous other things. And she really does tell us the story about how crazy it was that she ended up in the Pink video. We also talk about a little bit about her experience in the pandemic and how she ended up going back home to her childhood home and staying there for about a year. A trip that was only supposed to be a short time turned into a long-term stay. And actually, it was beneficial. So stay tuned and check it out. Hi, Katie. How are you doing today?
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Donna, for having me. I'm so grateful to be here.
No problem. No problem. I know you had a busy day today. Everything turn out okay?
Yes, everything's rocking and rolling, scaling, and scaling some more. Art on top of art on top of art. Collaborative projects. I'm very excited.
Is that something that is your project behind you?
It is actually. I'm so excited. It's one of my babies. It's art. It's a pop culture collage. It's a 60 by 36, and so it's actually one of my favorite pieces. That's why it's right behind me.
Nice. I used to make collages in the 80s. I haven't done that in a very long time, but it was always fun to do that. So
yeah,
appreciative. So you have an extensive career, not only in television and music, but you also are a coach and you're an author.
Yes,
so
indeed.
You have this large creative mass, and I know, and most likely a lot of people don't, if anybody knows you, I'm not sure that they realize that you are a Miss Michigan Teen Motor City.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. It was really a great opportunity because I grew up running cross country. So I knew about short-term, medium-term, and long-term goals. So I had this like foresight and insight. And actually I couple that with the coaching that I do today for people in the world and people for industry coaching. Furry friends, hey, what's up? Yeah. And so when I was a teen, I just, was used to always being on the announcements twice a week, running cross country and being on varsity and winning all these awards, that it felt like really natural to me. And I just really wanted to like prove myself in such a way. So I entered Miss Michigan Teen. And I did Miss Michigan Teen Motor City, and I won. And all the judges, it was such a grand opportunity because Mary Fishoni was an agent at the talent shop back in the day. And they signed me to the agency, boom, because I won. And then there's this other woman who was there, and she hired all of the talent for the auto show, which is a huge circuit in America, to do the auto show. And so by winning the pageant, I didn't have to audition like a model or a talent would audition to be in the auto show or a TV show or as a model for a campaign. They offered it to me, which was really, really cool. And I was a teen, and I did the circuit working for Ford Motor Company, and it was the Thunderbird. It was like the re-release of the Thunderbird, and there were 6 of them, and they had a limited edition one with Neiman Marcus. There was like 200 silver, and they had yellow and blue, and this like big cherry red one, and it was great. But what happened was there's the small shows and 3 to 5 day shows, and then there's the macro shows, which is all the big markets. I'm a big city girl: New York, Arizona, Boston, Chicago. Woo! Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so what I did was I got to select, and so I selected the major shows: Chicago, Boston, and I could be anywhere in America. And the company, Ford, and then the next year I worked for Hyundai, and it was a brand new company at the time. And I could be anywhere. So it gave me the opportunity, by being in Miss Michigan Teen Motor City and winning, by having that judge then select me and then offer me the opportunity. She was like the queen of the auto show industry, of like who's who and who's getting booked. And, you know, it's her thing. And for her just to offer me this opportunity, it actually made me have the advantage to move to California to pursue my dream. So I was 10 days. The companies would fly me anywhere in America, to Boston, Chicago, LA, New York, Arizona, 10 days. And then I had 20 days, the rest of the month, to be in Los Angeles, to get into an acting class, to go to Samuel French bookstore, to get my head down, to start being a social butterfly, networking and talking to everyone. So that's what pivoted me to California.
Nice. And for anybody that's listening overseas that doesn't really understand our auto show, like Chicago's auto show is something that runs for 10 days usually. And they actually have a black tie event the first night. And then it's also broadcast on one of our local channels for like a half-hour show. So it's a really big deal. I mean, people talk about going to the Chicago Auto Show, and it's a major thing. I've never gone, but it's a major event here.
Oh, yeah. And let me take it a step further, since we're on the topic. So when I'm in Arizona, and when I'm in Chicago, and when I'm in these different big cities, there's thousands of people per day coming and going, right? And I'm a narrator with the microphone speaking about the vehicle. So it's articulation, diction, pronunciation, language, right? So for an entertainer, for music, for acting and language and connecting and coming across energetically to share and send this information to people, it's very specific about, you know, the cars and the engines and the horsepower and all that fun stuff about cars. But also when I was a kid, I didn't know HSP, highly sensitive persons. 16 to 20% of the population are highly sensitive persons. I'm one of them. I'm an empath. Like, I didn't know the language of being sensitive, and I pick up kind of like you have that same vibes of being an empath and being in tuned and sensitive. And those are the people who are sometimes quiet. Obviously, I'm not quiet, but very quiet in a way of attuned, and they feel things more than other people feel things. Their meridian points, their centers are more open. We just pick up on things that intuit to hit nature. It's a gift. So it's a total gift. People are more connected and speaking about it now, especially with platforms like podcasting and just social media. But when I was a kid, I didn't know that language. However, I sincerely remember I would call it the breeds of people. I would be in Arizona or Seattle, and I would see like a blanket of people kind of having the same vibes, you know? And so I was really able to attune to people's vibes and energies state to state, seeing how they were all unique, which was really cool. And I did that all through the auto show. And as an actor, as an observer, my Michigan accent just came out when I said actor.
Okay.
As an actor, yeah, it's okay, Michigan. But as an actor, I was able to observe and sensorially, viscerally see and feel those experiences, which is a lot when you're watching a show, and then when you're acting and listening and interacting with people in life, you know. So it was really great training at a very young age for my artist.
Right. And I mean, as an actor, you have to live in the moment. So the art of observation is highly recommended for an actor.
Exactly. That and Vipassana, I think it's dharma.org, for a 10-day silent meditation for your human being. And if you're not going to do it for your human being, to do it for your artist, just to go sit anywhere in the world for 10 days in silence, and it's free. You just endow and deepen the relationship of your artist. It's really great just to get so centered and quiet.
And I mean, that's one thing a lot of us don't do anymore, because we're so driven by technology that we don't sit quietly.
Exactly. Yeah. So I have to just totally pivot and honor myself. For example, I had something going on, and then when I was done, I just put on a timer for 21 minutes, because Dr. Joe Dispenza says we have 60 to 70,000 thoughts per day, and 90% of those thoughts are the same thoughts. So since I'm attuned to that, I'll like to 2 to 3 times a day, I like to just take moments to myself, even if I'm busy or have something going on. I'll take those moments in the in-between just to get still and silent and allow the thoughts to come and go, but to be in tune with the intelligence of my body and feel the impulses that come up that are exciting. I want to like stop my meditation or see like how many minutes I have, because I have to like write something down so I don't forget. Or if it's like some pressure that just comes off me, you know, or some stress or some cries come up or something that irritates me and bothers me, you know, to question like, what is that or why, instead of avoiding it. It's like, what can I learn from this? How can I grow through it? Because the more I ignore it, the more it's going to irritate me, the more it's going to just keep coming up. So it's like, okay, how can we just not sweep it under the rug and say, okay, this keeps coming up. It's annoying. It's irritating. It's annoying. It's irritating. But actually look at it and be like, ha ha, and just like befriend it, not make fun of it, you know, not banter with the ego, but kind of like dissipate it so it doesn't have power over us. Right. So it's important to take time for self in this busy world, especially with all the avenues coming every which way. Like, lastly, I put my phone on airplane mode when I sleep, so I'm not bothered, you know, so I have like a deep rest sleep without, you know, the Wi-Fi radiation frequencies and everything.
Yeah, and that makes sense. So you went out to Los Angeles, and I know that you were in the Who Knew video, and was that kind of a cattle call thing? And I know you're a GIF now. I know you're a GIF. I saw your several GIFs now they've taken. It's not just one, several of them.
I had no idea. And yeah, that's so cool. How neat is that, right?
Yeah.
That's a really remarkable story, because, you know, in life we go after things, and when we go after things, we're sowing seeds and we're nurturing it, we're watering it. And then you're out to sushi or getting your hair done or doing something, and then a woof of energy comes and it's like, whoa. So what happened was, I'll never forget. I was with my best friend, Jay Logan Horn, and he had a hair appointment at Frederick Fekkai, and it was a Friday, and it was in the evening around 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. So to get a call at that hour was super rare, because it's a Friday. Yeah. And it's pouring rain, and I'm in the makeup area, kind of just like testing out makeups, because I'm not getting a treatment or my hair done. He is. And I get a call, and it's this casting director. I think it was Anissa Williams, like famous, amazing casting director. And they're like, so-and-so, the producers want to see you, which is rare, because usually you go to casting.
Yeah.
It's casting, and then you go to producers. It's casting. That's like a pre-read.
Yeah.
But I'm cutting corners, but the pre-read you actually have to, when you get a pre-read, that's really an actor's second read, because when they have their submissions of 5,000 or 500, they have to select you to see the casting director. And that's really the casting director's pre-read to send you to the producers. But by the time you're going to the producers, that's kind of like the third hoop for you. But I don't know what happened, if they cast someone or they just were casting and it wasn't the right fit. But like I said, you sow seeds, but they specifically called me. They wanted like a young Avril Lavigne type. So they called me, my agent, Anissa Williams the producers want to see you. I go to the production house on the West Side. And mind you, my friend's getting his hair done. We're in his car. It's pouring rain. He let me take his car. I'm like, yo, I have to go to this like audition for Pink's music video. I had no idea it was shooting the next day. It was shooting that weekend. So sometimes production moves so fast, like TV, film, music videos. Like I said, I don't know. You never know what happens on the production side. Anything could happen. You're a podcaster, editing, tech, sound, like scheduling, talent, moving schedules. You just never know. So, but we as artists, as individuals, we just show up and we do our best. I was in town. I was available. My friend like let me take his car, because he could have said no. There wasn't, I don't remember there being Uber and Lyft back then. But long story short, I get to the production house, HSI Productions, Greek owned, by the way. What's up? And Ron Mornoff is the producer. And he produces Taylor Swift's videos, commercials videos, Mariah Carey, like the list goes on. He's like top tier, amazing. And so there's Samuel Bayer's the director. He did Teen Spirit, Nirvana, The Cranberries, Zombie. Like, I mean, like legendary musicians and music videos to boot. And he was like the creme de la creme of like all music videos. So there's producers, there's me, there's an actor, and he ironically looks a lot like my ex, Alexander Rodriguez, who is from Santa Barbara, who is he's really good friends with Katy Perry. And so they grew up in Santa Barbara together. So he's in the music video. He's hot and he's cold. He's yes and he no, that her second like biggest hit. He's the groom who leaves her at the altar. And so the first actor looked a lot like him. And then the second actor is the actor who booked the role. And is so wild because the producers asked me as an actor with the craft of acting, like who did you vibe with? Who did you think was like the better fit? And I'm like, yo, I told him straight out. I'm like, if you're going for looks, the first guy. I'm like, if you want to go for like talent and acting, the second guy. And they hired the second guy.
Wow.
And ironically, Pink did tell me on set, I think she told me that like the boyfriend actually did resemble a vibe of her ex. So that probably majorly had something to do with it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was a 2-day shoot. I remember like the night before, I was so ecstatic and so happy. And I did day one. And then that night I was with Jesse McCartney and his girlfriend at the time, Katie Cassidy, and another one of his friends. And we were just having such a great time. And I was so ecstatic that I actually drank too much. I drank, and I'm not a big drinker, but I was like so ecstatic, and I had to be on set the next day. And when you see the music video, there's that amazing thing that goes around in the circle really fast. Yeah. I totally, and I was like, I totally went on it, and I totally threw up afterwards. And the people on set thought it was because I was going in circles, but it was really because I was so like partying the next night like a Hollywood rock star. Like my ego was so big that I was like, yeah, I'm a working actor on set working on a Pink music video, like in my mind. I didn't say anything, but I was feeling like a rock star, like really feeling my ultimate self. So I had a couple drinks, and then the next day I totally like let it go. But yeah, it was 2 days, and it was before Samuel Bayer directed feature films. There was buzz about him directing feature films, and I'm like, oh my God, I hope he calls me and puts me in his film. which actually he actually cast Katie Cassidy in one of his films. She played the friend to the girl, and I forget the name of the film, I think. But I think I remember seeing that. But yeah, so when he directed me and we shot it, when people are like, oh, what are your favorite projects? And I'm always like, oh, like Pink Who Knew always comes up for me, because it felt like I was on a movie set, and it felt like I was being directed from, a film director. And then he went on to, directing films. But it was amazing. Like it was great. And when he pushed me, I mean, he really pushed me. Like I went flying. Like I'm like, whoa, like that, my energy.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yo, okay. I know I keep rambling here. So I was in Clubhouse. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
I was in Clubhouse with Value Culture, Adam from I Value Culture. And we did he hosted with me World Poetry Day for my poetry book that came out during the pandemic. And we hosted an event together, and it went on for 12 hours. We had over 100 poets speaking in their native tongue, everyone reciting poetry. And he said to me, I had no clue, and you can change your profile pic. And he took the screenshot of me and the boyfriend on one of the rides looking at each other in profile. And he told me, I just didn't even realize, he's like, yo, that has over 150 million views. I'm like, oh, wow. Word. Wow. Yeah. Word. Yeah.
That's one of the gifts too, is you on that ride.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, and then what happened was, one year that summer, I was in Europe and I was getting gelato in Milano, and the song came on. And I was like, oh my goodness. And then a year later, it came out in America, and it became big in America, but it became big internationally first.
Interesting.
Yeah, super interesting.
Because usually, everybody wants to break in America. They want the music to break here first, but a lot of artists, and I mean, Pink is a big deal, but a lot of artists have to break for overseas first. And I know that wasn't the case for her, because she already had somewhat of a following, but yeah.
Pink's great. I love her. And I love her as an artist, because when you listen to her albums, it's so eclectic. It's not just one thing. When people try to pigeon you to like do one thing as they do as artists, they're like, oh, do one thing. When you listen to her albums and her music, it shows a super wide range of variety. And oh my God, I saw her documentary too. I love like how she travels with her family. And I mean, that's what I've always aspired to do as an artist, take my children with me. And it was really cool to see a sneak peek of inside of her life while she was on tour. I definitely recommend that documentary of her. I watched it during the pandemic. She's marvelous. What a great opportunity to work with Pink. Yeah. I love, and I'm wearing pink.
I see that.
I love her. She's great. I hope I get to work with her again.
And I know you also worked with Hilary Duff too.
Oh yeah. That's a really cool story. So I actually just came back from Europe. So a lot of times growing up, I would spend my summers in Europe, and I was sailing the south of France for a couple of months, Corsica and like all around. And I came back fresh off of like a European yacht trip, right? And so I have a nice tan. I'm feeling like really confident. And there were so many gorgeous girls at this audition. Like seriously, you have to like just go in and not compare yourself and just do your own thing. Like you can't even start looking, because you start judging and observing. And then when we do that, it nicks away at our own self-esteem and our own self-worth. So we need to like not do that, like stay in your own zone, in your own lane. But I don't like comparing. It's like a death threat. It doesn't feel good. Like there's an abundance of energy for you, for me, for everyone. Like what's meant to be for us is supposed to be. And if we call to it and we say, yo, this is mine, we take what's ours, like, and there's no shame about it. It's just like this confidence and this like thing. If you're supposed to align to it, we can manifest and make it happen. Right. So that's like a whole nother podcast probably. But I went in, and I think I want to say, because they had you like come in and they had you like do like a little dance. there were a lot of dancers in the video, but I think like there were all these people, like the casting director, I think again, it was Anissa Williams, actually, boss lady, I think it was her again. And then there were like so many people in the room, like 6 or 7 people. I have no idea who they were, probably like the producers, director. And they have you come in, they ask you some questions. And so I have this fabulous story about just, coming from Europe. And I think they have you like do a dance number. I don't remember or not, but I definitely remember like dancing to some Justin Timberlake music. So I don't know if that was a separate audition for Justin or if that was just the music they played. But they just want to kind of like see you move. Anyhow, I get booked on the job. I'm on the job. It was so cool. And Jessica Pastor, who's a stylist, she is amazing. She was on the set, and I know her through Logan, one of my best friends, like J. Logan Horn. He just launched his own fashion brand, J. Logan Home. And so Jessica Pastor, I have to look at this up real quick for you. Hold on one second. She goes by High Heel Princess on Instagram. Here she is. Yeah. And then she styles, what's her name? She styles Emily Blunt nonstop for years. So she styles her everywhere, all the big award shows and everything. So I get to set and I'm like, yo, Jessica, what's up, girl? And she puts me in this like $12,000 Gucci dress. It was boss. I was like, oh my God. And I felt so flawless and amazing. It was so sweet. And, I'm sure you saw the video. So I'm the girl that Hillary doesn't really like too much because her boyfriend is eyeing me when he should just be, eyeing her only. And so we had like this thing. Yeah.
But that's still cool. It was an opportunity. It's still a cool opportunity.
Yeah.
So you also did a lot of featured guest spots, correct? On like Law and Order, Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Yeah, they're called guest star when you're a guest star on a TV, or a guest lead. On Cold Case, I was a guest lead. I went out for that show 8 times. I was told in Hollywood it's one of the most difficult shows to book because a lot of times they're matching the Cold Case files with like 1940s to present day. So they have to make sure families and, storylines and everything matches. But Barbara Florentino, she's amazing. She's now the head of casting at Hulu. Her and Rebecca Mangieri, they always took me to producers. So that's such an honor when you're so specific about your work and you build such a trusted relationship with the other people that they know they can just bring you to producers and you're going to make them look good and you're going to like do a really great job. And so, my manager would tell me at the time, she was like, yeah, they really like you. They like your work. They want it to be like the right fit. And I played a poet. So it was the perfect fit for the show I did work. It was such an honor to be on that show. And I'm really excited to be back on TV. It's my number one focus right now. So to become a household name. So I've done guest star spots, guest leads, and I've tested for TV shows, comedy and drama, which is a very big compliment in Hollywood. And I've done a lot. And now I'm focused on becoming a household name for TV and in animation.
Awesome. Have you tried out for Family Guy?
I have. Yes, they have a very close relationship with my agency, Vox. Vox is amazing. VOX, it's one of the top voiceover agencies in the world. Sidebar, I just found out recently, Billie Eilish is with my voiceover agency, and I saw her docuseries or her documentary during the pandemic on Apple. It's so good. It's super impressive. I was so inspired that I did a podcast episode about it afterwards. It's just, if any artist wants to get fired up or anyone wants to like reclaim their authenticity, I suggest watching Billie Eilish's documentary because I had to like forgive myself for being super inauthentic to my own self, people pleasing in the world, because you get into this cycle of people pleasing. And when you're people pleasing, you're not pleasing anyone and you're certainly not pleasing yourself. It just brings a boatload of insecurity. But circling back around, Vox is amazing. And it was a while ago, but I auditioned for a 90-year-old grandmother role. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't book the role, but it was, that's the thing about life, or art and acting. It's like you put yourself up to the challenge, you go for it. And if you think you can make great choices under the umbrella of the circumstances and the craft and the choice, go ahead. But if they call me and they want authentic German or authentic like French or something, like I'm not going to do it. They're going to hire someone who's authentic from, that region.
Yeah.
I'm not going to, but then they thank me and my team trusts me because they know I turn down certain opportunities, and it's going to, make everyone's job a lot easier, because you want to send the best of the best for everything, so then they can trust you for bigger opportunities in the near future.
Yeah. And I mean, that's the thing you need to build with your agent. You need that level of trust. You do.
You really do.
Both for you and for them. So you've also done some featured film, correct?
Yeah.
But then, we can step aside from the acting, and then we have music, which you went on tour with 50 Cent.
Yes.
How did that all come about?
That was a grand opportunity. So I made a single called So Into You. And the producer I was creating at the time, he's a great producer. He's from Miami. His name's Randall Emmett. He makes about 10 films per year. He's killing it in the industry. He always has. He's doing very well. He's has a heart of gold. Great person. Was doing business with 50. And he had a childhood friend, Michael Burns, who had a music studio, and this producer, Luigi Gonzalez. And they put me in the studio and we made a song. And then we were in New York at the Waverly Inn, and we had dinner with 50 and Chris Lighty, God rest his soul. He's not with us anymore, unfortunately. He's great. He represented 50 and he represented Diddy and a lot of dope artists. And, we had dinner, and they gave him, Randall Emmett gave Chris Lighty and 50 the song, and they're like, okay, cool, let's give her an opportunity. And it kind of circles back around to what you said about like people wanting it to make it in America. Well, what happens is on international tour, I was told, you go out to Australia, New Zealand, Europe, like internationally, you go out internationally, and it's kind of like your kind of rehearsal. And then when you come to America, it's like the big shot. So it's actually almost better to perform outside of America. So if you're working out any kinks and things like that, then when you come to America, there's no flopping it. You know what I mean? So I went on tour in Europe, and then they invited me to New Zealand and Australia, but I booked a movie with David Toohey and Steve Zahn. He's amazing. I just watched him on White Lotus on HBO. Oh my God, he's so good. White Lotus is amazing. I booked a movie called A Perfect Getaway, and I went to Puerto Rico and I shot that film. And thank goodness I did, because I was on screen with Milla Jovovich and Steve Zahn, and it's leaving the legacy is forever because, it was filmed. And then, if I were to just do the tour dates, I would have had it, videos that would go up on YouTube, which I have videos of YouTube of being in South Africa and in Europe with 50 and G Unit, Yayo, Banks, DJ Who Kid and stuff like that. And then they invited me to go to South Africa. So I took that opportunity, and that was great. Yeah.
So what do you prefer? Do you prefer being an actress or a musician? Because I know you just released another EP, correct?
Yes. So you know what? I have a deep passion for music, and I love music, and I created a brand called The Sophisticated Psycho. So it was music to start, but now it's turned into a production company, because now during the lockdown, I created an international award-winning lockdown improv comedy web series called Couples Therapy. Season 1 and 2 are available on the Sophisticated Psycho's YouTube channel. And then my partner, Nikki Scorpio, he puts all the music, he does all the editing. I directed it. We're both acting in it, and it's improv. And with life and how things are and taking time out during the pandemic, I had to look at my life and see what's happening. And, the most success I think success is measured, but, for the longevity of my life and my career, I think animation is really fun. I love like utilizing my voice in different ways, and like naturally weird things just come out. So I think it's really my calling, like Cartoon Katie, my branded name for voiceover. So I have the body of work and the craft of acting. So I think like voiceover animations, acting, on-screen acting is my number one thing in my calling. And so that's what I'm focused on. But what I'm doing is 11/11 is my birthday. And so I did go to DJ music school. I grew up with the best DJs around the world coming to Detroit, Michigan before DJs were big in Western civilization, and like befriending all these DJs. So it's like a part of my culture and vibe and my passion and what I love as a human being. So as a passion project for my birthday, I'm going to release a full album of future trap and dubstep. Since they're kind of similar, I'm just, instead of having 2 EPs, I'm just combining them into one, just as a passion project. But I'm not going to like set up a tour to go perform my music as a DJ or as an artist or anything. So I'm just because I've really got a grand scope of what it takes to be an actor and what it really takes to be a musician. And I didn't understand when people are like, oh, you can only focus on one thing, you only can do one thing, you only can do one thing. Because I was like watching Ludacris doing movies or music and then being in movies. And then you see 50 doing music and now he's in movies. And a lot of people, they cross over. But then successful mentors and people along the way, they're like, yeah, but you do one thing and then you pivot and scale into everything else. So for me, and I was so anti picking one thing. And I was so personally my ego. And I was so in my own way of picking one thing because I felt like I was dismantling and abandoning my babies. I felt like I was giving up on my art and my dream and myself. And it just like took me to the ground where I could probably stop crying right now. So I had to like, on a psychological level, really like nourish myself and really take the punches and really take the hits to see the energy and feel the vibes of what is going on, and everything's in a rotation, but ultimately understanding how like, yeah, how I can do one thing and do it really well and really focus on that, and then become a household name on TV. And then they can see, oh yeah, she has music. And if they want to put it for music licensing deals, and if they want to, have me perform as a DJ or an event or something, it would be me as an actor, but like, yeah, she makes music too. Or like, yeah, she's an actor, but she has a podcast too. But it goes hand in hand, because when you have a podcast for voiceovers, they're like, oh, they'll send YouTube videos. We want this tone, or I get it all the time, Alicia Silverstone or Scarlett Johansson from Her, or Emma Stone, like that raspy thing in your voice, right? Or they'll send over like, we want an animation character like from this TV show or this film mixed with this. Or it's very rare, but once in a while, they'll send a clip of a podcaster. And I'm like, okay, yeah, well, they want the tone in the conversation. I'm like, well, let my podcast become so amazing that the clients are calling to hire my voice as an actor for these brands. In addition, building up my personality so people in the world can know my ethics, my morals, my values, who I am, what I stand for, so they can say, yeah, we want this person to be acting in our projects and aligning to our production because she shows up in this way. And so that's how they can pivot hand in hand and go with one another, if that makes sense.
It does. It totally makes sense. Now, when we talked about your Better Two moment, it was talking about how you would build yourself up and then tear yourself down, and a little bit of imposter syndrome. Are you still dealing with this? I mean, I know any day something can trigger you to feel like that. There's days when you can feel awesome, and then there's a day when something will happen and it'll trigger you. How often and how are you working through that?
Great question. Yes, it was very, very difficult, and I didn't know I was doing it. And other people around me saw I would do it, but I wasn't aware of it. Now I'm acutely aware of it. So for me, like, I had 3 Facebook accounts. I had 2 Twitter accounts. I had 3 Instagram accounts. I had so many accounts that the energies were splitting instead of building one thing up. So now it's like, I'm not starting anything new. I'm just focusing on one or two platforms to really build myself up. And a lot of times I would I'm going to be totally frank and honest here that I would build myself up and be ready to take the train track to get on the caboose for it to go. Painting, modeling, acting, music, all these things, but then I would rip them down. I was so scared and I didn't understand why. I had a fear of success. I thought in my egoic mind, I had to get past my own self, but I thought in my egoic mind, once I'm successful with music, once I'm successful with acting, once I'm successful in these areas, that I was going to die. I thought I was going to die. I thought I was going to die when they actualized. And I had to really be, let the beast out and communicate this with people on a psychological level. So we could ask the intelligent questions, the quality questions of like, why, or what would happen then? Okay, what would happen then? And then what would happen then? To really get past and get out of my own way, to realize that once these go on train tracks and they have a life of their own, then that's the beauty of life, the unexpected and the unknown, and God's grace and universal law of abundance for the unknown, of the magic of life to happen, right? Mm-hmm. Of the unexpected, hopefully, good things to happen. But I was so scared because it was so controlled. So that's when I learned about control, dismantling ego, fulfilling my ego, getting away from my ego, and then also trusting other people. I would be very limited of who I would trust. So now I have like about 18 people on my team who are agents and managers. I have one manager, but agents and people who are on the team who support and help me, which I'm so grateful for. But my internal team of my administration team, like admin, I was so scared about all those things that I felt like, it could just all go down, or it would all be taken away, or someone would sabotage me. And so through opening up with my internal team gave me this newfound trust of people, and seeing how people are generally really good, and maybe I've been hurt along the way or been taught certain things along the way, or I got paranoid and scared and overprotective. And so sometimes you like protect because maybe I was told like, oh, make sure you lock the door, make sure you do this. So I would be overprotective in that way. And then I would be quadruple protective just out of my own insecurity of, wanting to protect myself, if that makes sense. But through my assistants and my team, they've really helped me build trust in the workplace. And it's helped me on a personal level, believe it or not. And it's made my businesses flourish, which I'm really, really excited about. And I'm happy to share that, so it really made me understand the importance of, work I do as an individual. That's so cool. That's so cute. Oh, look at that tail. It's so cute.
That's Chloe.
Chloe, cute. Yeah, so it gave me, that introspective realization on a personal level, which is really, really meaningful and important, something I needed to grow through.
Yeah. And I mean, the one thing, as much as there's a fear of success, there's also the fear of failure. And it's kind of like you can't have one without the other, because you have, like you said, the fear of, there's the unknown, and there's that fear of the unknown. I was watching something earlier today. It was Michael Hutchins' documentary, and somebody had posed a question about success. And he's like, I don't really like to think about success because everybody's got a different degree of success and it kind of limits you. And, people have asked me that. They're like, so as a podcaster or as an author, what do you feel is successful? And I mean, you give an answer, but the truth is it is very limiting. It really is. Because my idea of success may not match your idea of success, may not match your parents' idea of success. And then it's all about everybody else's expectations put on you. Mm-hmm. And that's a big thing that I think a lot of us need to relearn and get away from, is that we can't live up to everybody's expectations, which goes back to people pleasing.
Yeah. Well said. Well said. People pleasing, comparison, judging, it's relearning, like you said, it's just all of it. Definitely. Definitely. And I guess that's a part of the journey of life. And that's why I like podcasting so much, because we can share so much information and it's free, and we can connect with one another and hear stories, and we can hear whatever we're hearing now and take what moves us and inspires us, and leave whatever doesn't, and be curious, to learn more about something that piqued our interest.
Right. And I mean, I had a guest earlier. They're like, well, I don't have a story. The most recent episode, it's about a gentleman at 16 taking a flying leap off of a building, because at 12 years old, he felt so disconnected from life. He ended up surviving, and he's paralyzed, and it changed his life, and he has a much different outlook. But to have somebody that's that young and just can't figure out his purpose, and it's heart-wrenching. But that being said, here we are now, we're talking about you being in a Pink video. So for me, the way I like my podcast is whatever you turn on, you don't know what you're going to get. We all have a better two moment. It may be something as tragic as that, or it may be something as simplistic as, I have this issue with fear, and I have this issue about being harder on myself.
Yeah, it's been a big lesson for me. And the one thing you mentioned about purpose, and I feel, people are in such a rush to find their purpose. And I feel like in life, it's a journey to find your purpose. And I think we have more than one purpose being here. It's not just one thing, I don't think. Yeah.
Well, and then when you start looking at purpose, a lot of the times we look at labels. Then we get into the labeling, and it's not just about marriage. It's not just about sexual orientation or skin color. It's about, oh, well, I am this now. I'm an actor. I'm an insurance adjuster. I'm and that was one of my former titles. But that's exactly it. It's a title. It doesn't mean that's who I am. And when I left being a claim supervisor, because I did it for so long and it became part of me, I had to rediscover who I was. And this is the second time I'm having this conversation today about rediscovering who I am. Because when my husband died, same thing. I was married to him for 16 years. When he was gone, you have to figure out who you are without that other person. Same thing when you change a job. And a lot of people go through that. And it's not so set in stone like it used to be. You used to go to a company, you would be there for 20 years, and then you would retire, maybe 30 years. And that was your identity. Now people don't stay at companies that long. Now as you were saying, you can change your role. I can sit here and rattle off a whole bunch of different things I've done with my life. And each time I had a different thing about who I was. So.
Yeah. Dr. Joe Dispenza, my sister, Anna Chonacas, she turned me on to Dr. Joe Dispenza and a couple of his videos, but what you just said, identity, and it becomes your personality, and how to dismantle and then fire and wire new neurons, and then unfire and unwire ones that aren't there. And then sometimes because of the passing of your, late husband, you don't have to unfire and unwire. They're just not there. You know what I mean?
Right.
Those beliefs, those scripts, those languages like you hear in your head, and then, the functionality of your energy and your behavior and what you do, that becomes an open space on the canvas, and it gets filled with, different thoughts and different habitual patterns. That's why I really love traveling, because I feel one of the reasons why I would be in so many different places, when you stay in the circumstances, and a lot of people, when they're living somewhere, they never leave their home. They're just always there. They marry people from high school or whatever. They have children. They're never leaving their state. Some never leave America. Like, I needed to seek and see the world and explore and be somewhere, and then dismantle my circumstances and get away. So I'm in a fresh environment, so I can feel and see things from a different perspective. And sometimes along my journey, I've been very stuck in one place, tethering myself to one space and to like one area where I would imprison my own self. And although I know what I just told you, I still on a psychological level kept myself in one area. Right. And so when you know it and then you still do it, and it's still hard to leave, like just book a trip and go. Like you've done it so many times, or just drive in the car, or just like get up and like get out of your environment. Like just turn off the phone for 3 or 4 days and just take yourself on a trip by yourself. Like, you know what I mean? Just like to get quiet, to get out of our circumstances of the track that just goes around and around. And when we do that, that's why people journal, to write down their thoughts, to get past their thoughts, to see what keeps coming up, multiple reasons for journaling. And then, that's why I feel like taking trips are so important too. And you take what's good and you discard what's not, that doesn't serve you, and it's like, we just need to keep going. And the what they say, the famous quote is, the only thing that's consistent is change, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes. My cat is trying to bite my fingers. That's why I'm like,
she is very active today.
She is. Well, she's been sleeping all day. So I think that's what the problem is. No, I mean, I know what you're saying. My husband, he would sit there and say, because I've lived in several different states in the United States, and I've been outside the country, but he would be like, when my parents die, I want to move out of Illinois. Okay. He died here. He never moved. We never moved. So I understand exactly what you're saying. There's certain people that will never, I mean, we lived in different places here in the Chicago area, but he never accomplished that.
Yeah, some people like say things and it's a fantasy in their minds, right? It's an escape of not your husband, just in general. And that's why I wrote A Lover's Fairy Tale, the poetry book, because it's a fantasy and it's a play. And I was in these euphoric nirvana circumstances that weren't normal circumstances for me. So I wrote poems about them to catch the essence and the vibe of the feelings of how I was. And then when I released the book, I wanted to, have that be a transfer of energy in language with the words, so people can read and take it into their mind, into their heart, their soul. And then I also lifted it and made over a decade spoken word music videos to those poetry pieces that were my favorite, that I released, and I like rebranded and repackaged them during the pandemic. And it was really important to share love and fantasy, because I know firsthand of what it's like to be in circumstances of one place and not being able to get out and feel trapped and stuck. Some people, when I was a kid, there was, there's many quotes where it's like, if you read, you can travel the world, you can travel to different places through literature. So I had to stop being so selfish with my poems and actually put it together, to put it on the train tracks, to get out there, to share the words and the language. And I'm really excited to hear, the comments and what people say. I mean, I just got an email right before I got on with you from a person. They said to me, hi, Kiriaki. I was just wondering if you plan on releasing another poetry book anytime in the near future. I recently reread A Lover's Fairy Tale and would be psyched if another one was released at some point. I hope you're doing well. And it's like, that's so cool, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So it's nice to have that feedback. We need to have that communication and language with people. Because other times we're just getting so in our head and we're feeling so isolated and judgmental with ourselves. So what that circles back around with, being kinder to ourselves and having more compassion, so we're not judging.
So, we talked about the pandemic a little bit. So you left Los Angeles and went back home to Detroit, correct?
I was bi-coastal. So I was in New York in March. And I was in New York for March through April, or March through August, I went to the Hamptons, and I was 2 blocks away from the beach, riding bikes, running, nice, waking up early, and just land in nature. And I was like, wow. And then I went back to the city, and it was extremely hot. And I was like, okay, in 2 weeks, it's my yaya, my grandmother, who I'm named after, Kiriaki. It's her birthday. So I got a one-way car, a rental, and I went to Michigan to see my yaya. And I was only going to be there for 7 to 10 days. 7 to 10 days turned into 1 year.
Wow.
1 year. Yeah. It was, who would have thought 20 years ago, I left for my little girl dreams to go out into the world, to be of the world, to travel, to have mentors, to see and seek the world and have all the experiences that I did. And then 2 decades later, in 2020, I was in my childhood home, reflecting. And Tony Robbins has this amazing audio, and he talks about this blueprint and how we have blueprints and we can rewrite our blueprint. And as a young adult, looking at my little girl dreams and my blueprint with my ego, and then reflecting and seeing my blueprint, what it was. And I had the time and space to create a new blueprint, God willing, for the next 2 decades of my life. So that was really, really cool.
Was it healing to be back home?
It was so healing. I had no idea. My parents just retired. Their plans, were to travel the world. And after raising 4 kids, very rambunctious kids, and I was at home, and I was the only one there. It was my first time being there with my parents, who were retired. So they're much more relaxed, just totally unwinding. And they were up to like 4 or 5 in the morning, like watching Marvel marathoning all the shows. And they were like little kids as adults, but it was so cute to like witness them. And they've always like done everything together, and just to witness them. And so that's why I kind of stayed home longer too, because I had the space. My siblings weren't there. I had the whole upstairs to myself. So I have a whole studio from my childhood home. I turned it in because I do a lot of voiceovers every day and podcasting. So I turned my childhood closet into a recording studio, and it's the best one yet. I'm so proud of it. And it's still theirs because God willing, I'll always go home. So I'll have my home to go to. And I already have a home studio set up. And I had my room, and then my sister's room I turned into an office. And then I had this like loft area, and then the bathroom. So I had this whole upstairs to myself, and my parents just allowed, because my parents were kids having kids. Mm-hmm. My grandparents migrate, came from Greece. So they came from the old country, and they're all about like hard work and, determination and discipline. And then my parents were kids having kids, and they did the typical, what you said earlier, 9 to 5 or 9 to 7, like working long hours to provide. To provide for the 4 kids. And I come from a big Greek family. So they would be at work. We'd have our, lunches every day, or lunch money. And then, they would come home and they would provide food, and we all had dinner together. And then we were just kind of all independent. We grew up. My sister, Anna, she said something recently this year where she made me realize like, oh, we grew up very independent. We had our own space to kind of do our own thing because our parents were working. And so, I got lost on a tangent. What was the original question?
I was asking you about, was it healing to go back home?
Oh, yeah. So having all that space, and my parents creating that space for me, just allowing, like it's like, it was so nurturing. I mean, I've been on so many dates. I've eaten in so many places all around the world. Like I've had so many dinners out. It was so nice just to have home cooked meals. And my mom and dad were just like breakfast, lunch, dinner every day. Like they were just very nourishing in that way. And I like really needed that. And it was very nourishing. And I had the space, and, they created this space for me, and they supported me. And I was reading my auditions. My mom would be reading my auditions with me. I set up in the loft upstairs my self-tape, for the TV and films, and she would record me and she would read with me, like very, very supportive and disciplined and determined. But I was able to take all that energy from when I was a kid and then going out into the world, and then the pandemic happened. I was able to, that best energy of yourself, I was able to get that and reconnect with myself again, because I realized I was giving the best of my energy out to the world instead of myself. I would do my art and my projects in the morning and then go out for the day, give my energy out, and then in the evening do my art. But when I first went to California, I was 1000% only doing art. So during the pandemic, I was able to reconnect with that part of myself again. And so I thank my parents endlessly for holding that space and for being with them. And it was just so nice, because lastly, it's like, when am I ever going to get that time again to be with my parents how I was, So I was just really sitting in the moment and appreciating what was. And that's why I kind of wasn't in a rush to get out of there either, especially with what was happening in the world. I wanted to be very mindful and do my part to, keep others safe. And, my Aya's 92 now. So, be safe for her. And then other, my elders, be safe for them as well. So, yeah.
So are you out in LA now?
So I'm here.
And
so,
go ahead.
Oh, no, it's just first time I came on a plane in a year and a half. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure it was a big deal. Sure, it was a big deal.
Yeah.
So you have a podcast called She's All Over the Place, which, kind of describes what you've talked about, being all over the place. So tell us a little bit about it.
Sure. The story goes, I remember being a kid in my childhood home on the ground, and I always wish I had like a little bird in my ear telling my intuition things I needed to know. And I said, I'm going to be that for that little girl or boy or, little person who feels isolated and not connected to knowing things that they needed and wanted to know about entertainment and, things in the world. And so I was journaling. And then I wanted to start my podcast 8 years ago, and I didn't know how to get on the train tracks. Right. But then I finally figured it out. By my friend Isolda, who has the Innovative Mindset podcast. And she was in my stand-up comedy class in New York before the pandemic. And it's an arts podcast. And I was talking with the Ambies, a director woman at the Ambies, and she's like, oh, this is a business podcast. And I was like, oh, wow, so cool. Because like as a woman, as a, person in the world, when they say it's quote unquote a man's world and stuff, I was always having this armor up. I was always having this shield to prove myself with all this pride and prove myself. And we do that, right? And then it was like the best compliment she ever gave me. And I've never met her. And I was just like, oh, wow. So it's an arts and business podcast with ethics, morals, and values. And it provides value and insight of my 2 decades of experience in entertainment and my experiences in life. And I love to share things that really interest me, that I've learned. And then I also love holding space as you are now. Thank you. To hear other people's stories, to hear their stories, to share their stories, and to honor each other and to walk on different paths, holding hands. Because in life, we can do it alone, and we know how that feels. Alone, lonely. And if we can hold space and be on a path and hold hands and walk together, I just find that very charming, and it excites me, and it makes me connected. And I feel it's one of my purposes, and one of my purposes that I found very young, that my birthday's 11/11. I've always felt I was one of God's angels, that my voice, my mom's always like, quiet. I'm like, you're going to see, Mom. One day you're going to see. And, I have great lungs from being a cross country runner. I talk a lot. I'm an artist. I'm an expressive person, motivational speaker, podcaster. I'm like, you're going to see da, da, da. And so by utilizing my voice intentionally to share information. So like the person watching and the person, you, even if it's just you, like attuning, you're like taking it in through your ears on a sensorial level. It's going through your mind, your heart, your body, your soul, and we're making an impact, and our words have such powerful meaning. So when we share and we send this information, it's a transfer of energy. And so when my goal is like, if I meet you, you know, for 1 minute, 5 minutes, 5 years, 5 decades, to make a eternal, everlasting impression is my goal.
Nice. I mean, that's the thing, you know, you also are a coach. That's something else that's on your resume. I mean, you have a whole list of things. So for you, I'm sure it's very hard. It was very hard to have that downtime too during the pandemic, because how do you shut all the things you want to do down when everything is being forced to shut down?
I kept going. I didn't slow down. I kept going. I remember one day I had 9 Zooms in one day. I was Zooming away, 9 Zooms. I was keeping myself so busy just to not focus on all the other stuff that could make someone go south. So I purposefully got very busy. But I know about me before the pandemic, something called a transition, where people need to get home from work and they clean the house or do the laundry to wind down. So I call it a transition. So I would have to prepare myself to take a bath, Epsom salt bath, to rejuvenate my body, my spirit, to get the magnesiums, to replenish myself with minerals. I would make sure to be taking vitamins and minerals to replenish myself. Do meditations 2-3 times a day, set my alarm for 21 minutes, or do guided meditations with Esther Hicks. You know, she's on Spotify, she has YouTube's Esther Hicks, listening to people like Caroline Mice, like tuning into podcasting, very therapeutic. I mean, podcasting is just, you know, so much fun, where it's like, it's not even work, because you're just sharing and hearing and outside of your own self. But yeah, you know, finding times to maybe veg out with my mom during the pandemic and say, hey, we marathon The Crown, and we would find shows to marathon. And it's so cool because when I'm chilling out, like the other day with my sister, and we watch White Lotus on HBO, and we're watching these shows. Oh, and Dickinson. Oh my God, Emily Dickinson. You're a poet, artist, language, words. Season 1 and 2, phenomenal, like super funny. Love the show. I actually auditioned to be on it, and I hope I get to be on it in the near future. Yes. So even when I marathon Outer Banks in 24 hours, 2 seasons, wow. I could not put it down. The gold, the treasure hunt was so exciting, you know, and then also them being on yachts all the time in water. It's like going on a vacation just from your own home. Yeah. And, you know, this is before I knew I was coming to LA. So I was able just to watch everyone in bikinis and the scenery of like the water life. And so I was like living in a fantasy vicariously through Outer Banks. Great show. I loved it. But yeah, it's cool because even when I'm vegging out and taking a load off from work, when I'm watching these shows, I'm seeing the producers, the directors, the actors, the tone, you know, the language of the shows, being abreast. You know, I'm going out for a show tonight, and I know the tone of the show that I'm going out for. And so it's fun because even when I'm not working, it's working. So for me, they all really go hand in hand.
Yeah, I was the musician I was talking to, same thing. And I mean, even my background, even though I've been away from claims for over 12 years, if I see an accident, I still sit there and go, okay, how did that happen? You know, there's occupational hazards. I play bass. When I listen to a song, I'm going to hear the bass. You know, there's just things.
Yeah.
And yes, you're going to look at how a shot is done. If you've directed something, you're going to look at a shot. I mean,
exactly. And like what you just said, it's like, you know, if you're doing music and you're taking a break, what are you going to do? Oh, turn on music to chill out and hang out. Or or maybe you're not listening to music because you were just making music, but more than likely you're putting on classical music or turning on some kind of EDM artist or something like that. But yeah, I love what you said about the claims, because for me, that's like, research scientific approach. So it's like, when you're looking at a claim, one of my long-term friends and mentors, Marvin Gordon, who's amazing, is an attorney for like multi-million dollar cases for car accidents. And so he's an attorney and with the claims and understanding claims. So I learned a lot from him, but it's like, it's kind of like going in as a scientist and discovering like, what's this part? What's that part? And it's kind of fun. Like everything's an art form, I think, like a piece of chair is an art.
I mean, for me, it was, I'm a writer, so I have the creativity in the writing, and then working in claims, not only did I have the auto accidents, I ended up having bodily injury. So I had to learn the science behind, the anatomy. And then I had to know the science between, okay, if this vehicle were to impact this vehicle. But it got really bad one time. I mean, I had the stomach flu, and we went to the pharmacy to pick up something, and somebody I did slip and fall claims and everything. And somebody had rolled a card over some lipstick and smeared it. And I knew it was just an accident waiting to happen. So here I am, barely keeping food down, and I'm walking around, and my husband's like, what are you doing? I'm like, we need somebody to clean this up before somebody falls. He's like, you're sick, let's go.
I love you. I love you. That's so, no, that is so kind of you. It's so important. Just the other day, I was walking, and every time there's a construction area, I always look down because there could be nails. Mm-hmm. And I looked down and there was a nail, and I stopped and I moved the nail. What if someone's wearing flip-flops? What if someone's riding a bike? What if someone doesn't see it? So it's disgusting, I know, but I have to take it and put it down a drain or just throw it away if there's a trash nearby. I mean, obviously I don't touch it for very long, but I move it, and one time I was in New York City, and there was just a very big, massive mess in an area where a lot of people were walking. It was a construction area, and there were nails outside of this concrete. Mm-hmm. There was just massive nails. And literally I stayed for 45 minutes until cops came. I called, and then I stood there so no one would walk and bump and then their calf go into these nails. Yeah. For 45 minutes. Wow. That's how long it took him to come after I called. But I stayed there, and I'm grateful. I was just walking away from a meeting, so I didn't have another meeting to go to, where I was attuned, doing God's work to be there in that moment to support and save. And how many people have probably done that for us that we never know about? Like, sure. We could be doing things in life, and something could have been there and not there because someone else did something that we did on those days.
I look at, we were moving to this house, and I was carrying out a glass doll cabinet because I had a porcelain doll from my stepmom, and the glass slid off the top of it and shattered on the stairs. And my husband's like, oh, just leave it, we can pick it up next time. I'm like, no, let me get it. So I packed it up, I cleaned it all up. We start driving up here, and in front of the college, they've rerouted the area now, but in front of the college, there was a stoplight. And so I'm sitting there in the car. We had a RAV4 at the time with a tire on the back, and I'm looking in my rear view, but the light turns yellow, and I go to slow down, and I'm looking in my rear view, and this guy in a pickup truck slams into the back of us. However, let me finish where I'm going. The tire was good because the tire took some of the impact, but had we not been there, this dude would have T-boned a teenager and most likely killed him. So, it's like, you don't think about those things until you really sit back and dissect it and think, one small move, one small thing can change everything.
True.
The butterfly effect.
I love it. Mm-hmm. So. Very true. And just like the butterfly effect, it's kind of what I was saying earlier about what we do as individuals. We are the ripple effect. How we are with ourselves, more kindness, more compassion. And then that ripple affects to our friends and families, and then out into the world. And it's a practice, and it's an opportunity to befriend ourselves more and more, be our own best friend.
Right. I think that's one thing most of us are not our own best friends. We look for outside validation. And that's that one thing that the 16-year-old had said. He's now 21. he said that at the time he was looking for the perfect Facebook photo. He was looking for the outside validation, and he got the perfect Facebook photo. And everybody was like, "You're looking great and everything," but it still wasn't enough. So I think, and that's a big trick with social media. You know, you get the outside validation, you're feeling really good, but then the next day the algorithm changes, and then what are you left with?
Yeah. And I'm so grateful, you know, for all the light workers and the star seeds and the empaths and the podcasters and the healers. And, you know, my sister, she has an amazing website, Chonacas.com. She does mitigation, and she, you know, with people's homes and, you know, better living, and, you know, a personal trainer, you know, for health. So there are so many healers in the world. And I've been connected to massage therapists since I was a kid. When I was cross country running, I'd have meets twice a week. So the night before, I would always be getting massages. And on a cellular level with my body and my organs, just being massaged and just healing myself with my body. Maybe that's how it comes sensitive to my being an empath or in tune with the intelligence of my body. I would have massages twice a week because of cross country running. And you know, it really led me on this spiritual path, you know, also being Greek and having passion, and, you know, the Greek philosophers and like Greek mythology, maybe with fantasy and play, and just, you know, leaving that space open. So I'm, you know, in deep honor of, you know, my fellow healers out there, and the coaches out there, and the people who have determination, and the people who are in it to win it, and just keep showing up to the mat. And even if it looks ugly, you just show up, and you know, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, but we just keep showing up, and you're like, hey, yep, that was pretty gnarly, but we're gonna show up anyway. And we're at it again, you know, with that love, with that power of love, you know. So
Which,
it's
I was gonna say, that kind of ties into the answer to your better two question. I mean, you can sit there and let all the hardships and all the setbacks and you know, some depression that you had talked about, all those things, and the fear, you can let it keep you down, or you can decide, no, I'm going to pursue this, and I'll move past this, and I know that it's a cycle.
Well, whether we want to go past it or not, it's going to keep going with or without us. Even if we make the choice that it's going to be, or we're going to be stuck, life's going to continue, and that stuckness is just going to keep coming up. So
it's better to keep going.
Yeah, definitely keep going. Energy and motion, right?
Yeah.
Energy and motion. Yeah, definitely.
So is there, go ahead.
I see you have a Hollywood Boulevard sign behind you.
Yes, I do. It's just right up there, which I don't even know if it's going to go there.
Oh, that's so cool. Oh, so if I need to go to Hollywood Boulevard and do some kind of video or photo and send it to you as a gift. If there's anything you want me to grab, videos, photos, let me know. I can grab something for you while I'm here.
Well, thank you. I actually went out to Hollywood, and I did the Marilyn handprints. I mean, I know that sounds so bad for some people, like, oh, you touched. Nah, back in the day, man, I had to go put my hand in her handprints. And
Which year?
2003.
Okay, well, we are so connected because I came to Hollywood at the end of 2001. And the very first thing I did on my night out, and it was raining and raining, I drove to the top, the furthest of the Hollywood Hills that I could go. I was trying to get to the Hollywood sign, didn't make it with the route I was going. I didn't know what I was doing. I wasn't driving, by the way, but I went to the Chinese theater, and I went to the Maryland hands, and I put my hands down at the end of 2001. I did it too. It's like the very first thing I had to do. I was like connected with her spirit.
The other thing I did was Shirley MacLaine was the other one, because when I was a little kid, I wanted to be Shirley MacLaine because she was a triple threat. You know, she could sing, dance, and act. And then I laughed because I ended up becoming Shirley MacLaine in a way because I became a tarot reader, and I was all into the woo-woo. So it was kind of like, okay. So,
Oh my God. That's so cool. What if you like read my cards? Could you do that?
Yeah, I could do that. And I've done it before. I've read some people in Australia and stuff. And I mean, I've done medium work too. I've had dead people show up, which is not always the fun thing. I'll tell you that right now.
Right.
But yeah. So yeah.
With the tarot, or is that separate?
I've had it come across when I was doing a tarot reading, and it ends up bleeding, the cards stop, and it ends up just the information comes. And that's not always, I always call myself the reluctant medium, because it it started as a freak thing. And the reason why it started, I was working a house party and somebody's relative came through when I'm doing it, because I read intuitively. And somebody says, this person comes through and I'm like, your dad's here and he wants you to talk to him. Well, I can't do that. I'm like, he says you can do that. Nope, I can't do that. So I continue with the tarot reading and finally I'm just like, give me your hands. And so I took her hands and sure enough, he just started coming through with all this information and she confirmed it. And I was just like, okay. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I've had some freaky things.
Yeah. I am such a curious artist. I'm just like, yo, like, I want to ask, but I don't want to ask. It's like, I do want to ask. Maybe we'll do it at a different time, or if you wanted to do it now. I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot. I don't want to put you on the spot. Let's not do it on air. Okay, let's schedule something.
Yeah, I don't want to do it on air because, on air, it's just like, do you want everybody knowing your business?
I'm kind of opening up right now.
Yeah, but this is a different thing. It's like,
I'm just kidding.
You put all that energy into a reading and it's like a personal thing. And the one thing people don't understand about readings is you ultimately control time and fate. I had a reader I used to go to in New Orleans when I lived down there, when I had moved back home to go to college. And she read with this deck called the Mother Peace deck, and it's a round deck. And I kept getting this card that was askewed when I went to her. And she's like, you're not doing something you're supposed to be doing. And I'm like, yeah, okay. So then I decided I was coming back to Chicago and I went and got my last reading from her and that card had fixed itself. It was righted. And she's like, you're on the right path now. It's like, okay.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah, even readers go to readers sometimes because even though I trust my intuition, you always need that backup. So,
yeah. So. While you were just saying it so weird, I just saw you as like Emma Stone's mother or something. Like that they needed like Emma Stone's mom. Like you could be her.
Okay. I'll take this a compliment.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Emma Stone's great.
I see Emma Stone when she's your age.
I can't tell you how many actors and actresses and singers over the years I've been told I look like, honestly.
Who else?
Rosie O'Donnell, which was really preposterous. Elizabeth McGovern. Missy Pyle. And some of these I actually can see if I put pictures of me, not so much now, but when I was younger, I can see them. The lead singer of Lone Justice. There's more. And it's just like, okay. Though, the Rosie O'Donnell thing was really disturbing because I had somebody walk up to me in a store. And the only reason I say it's disturbing is she walked up to me in a store and she's like, Rosie? And I'm like, what?
Wow.
Rosie? And I'm like, no. She's like, come on, you're Rosie O'Donnell. I'm like, no, I'm not. And I had a friend with me and both of us are looking at this person like, you're crazy. But she swore up and down. I'm like, no.
Next time, lean into it and be like, yes. Just for fun. Why not? Lean into it. That's what I do sometimes for fun. I'm just like, not with that situation, but just sometimes instead of like going against it, I'll be like, next time I was defensive about that. I'm just going to lean into it. Why not?
The only time I've ever leaned into anything like that was I was working in insurance a long time ago, and I lived in Texas. I had a temporary worker that came in, and she's like, somehow we got into the discussion that I could fake a British accent. So she's like, well, I want you to come out to the bar with me and my friend, but I don't want you to tell my friend that you're faking it. I want you, as soon as we pick her up, I want you a complete accent until the end of the night. I'm like, okay, fine. So we went to this honky tonk bar and I'm faking the British accent the whole night. And I have guys buying us drinks left and right. And they're asking me, I have this whole backstory I've created, which actually makes no damn sense. Honestly, it made no sense. They bought a hook, line, and sinker, and we get in the car and the friend is like, wow, you're so cool. It must be great to live in London. I'm like, no, it's not. She's like, what? I'm like, no, I'm from New Orleans. She goes, no. And I'm like, yeah. So that's the only time I've ever really pulled off some kind of scam like that. But,
yeah. You gotta have fun and play around. You can't take everything so seriously, right?
Yeah, exactly. So is there anything you want to add to tell the audience before we sign off on the podcast?
Yeah, I mean, get in touch with me, listen to my podcast. She's all over the place for more added value and my life wisdom. Just kidding, not kidding, not kidding. But yeah, get in touch with me if you need a coach, through your steps, visions, short-term, medium-term, long-term. I'm here for you. Chonacas.com is my website. You can just contact me. Yeah, and I just feel like, thank you for your time and your space for being here. Gary Vanderchuck, I saw him. He was a keynote at a Worlds event one time in Hollywood, at Hollywood and Highland. And he said, when one person and another person get together and they have an idea, it's worth $4 million. And this was in 2018. So I don't know what that would be now. But he said, the number one most valuable thing, what is it? More than money, is our attention. We can only focus on one thing at a time. So for anyone who is tuning in, watching, or listening, and just being here now, I honor you and I value you, because you can be anywhere literally in the world and focused on anything. And we choose to be here. So know that it's sacred, intentional, meant to be for whatever reason it is for you. And I honor and respect that. And I appreciate you sharing your journey with me and me being a part of your journey. And I guess lastly, I would say, go for what you want, when you want it, how you want to do it, because we have this miraculous, beautiful life. And that's what it is. And when we leave, it's better to do what we want, when we want, how we want to do it. And we're having this beautiful, miraculous experience in life. And if we feel that it's not so, then we can attune to that, check in with that, meditate with that, sit with that, journal with those things, and just pivot, shift, dismantle what we don't want, more of what we don't want. A short example is like, if you have to talk to someone every single week and it's like an hour, make it 45 minutes, make it 30 minutes. Take the attention and flow in your life and turn the needle towards self, to give ourselves that time and attention for ourselves more. And when we're really full, our cups, when it's really, really full, then we can be outpouring for other people. But, if it's someone that there's a lot of friction and stuff, just get silent. Don't react, because we're just putting fuel on the fire, and we're adding to their story and their beast to prove their righteousness, that they're right. So let's just unhook from everything and keep pivoting and focusing one step at a time. Read the 4 Agreements, read Mastery of Love by the same author, Miguel Ruiz, Ruiz. Beautiful, beautiful books, great reads. So they're gems in life.
And don't get caught up in other people's expectations.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for your time, Katie. We greatly appreciate it.
I'm so grateful for you. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Well, I hope you enjoyed hearing Katie and I talk. Like I said, it was an interesting conversation. We kind of went all over the place. We talked some metaphysical. We talked about, like I said, acting. And she's got a very good outlook. I mean, she wants to be a household name, and that's a big, big thing to take on. But you know what? Considering everything she's done and the journey she's been on, it might just be possible. If you have enough belief, and you can manifest anything. So hang on, because you might be hearing more about Katie in the not too distant future. So if you enjoyed the show, please tell your friends, leave a review. Let's get the word of mouth going, because I want the podcast to grow. This is the second to last episode of season 2. And with season 3, we're going to 3 episodes a week. So it's going to be happening. I don't ever intend to go to 5 episodes a week, because I think that might be a bit much for you guys. And well, it's a lot for me. So we're going to go to 3 episodes a week, and I hope you enjoy it. If you want to support the show, you can go to Patreon. Patreon has 3 tiers. And the first tier, which is just $5 a month, which is a little bit more than a cup of your morning coffee, you get a shout out on the show. And for $10 a month, you get to see the guest list. And on that guest list, if there's somebody you want to talk to that, you have a question for, I'll go ahead and ask that question. So check it out, see what's happening. We would appreciate the support. And when I say we, I mean me, because this is a one-woman show and there's a lot to do. So I appreciate you guys. If you want to follow us, we're on Twitter at better2podcast.com. We're also on Instagram at better2podcast. You can follow me on Instagram at dmneedham.com. And if you go into the bio at dmneedhamauthor, on Instagram, you can click the link tree and you will find all the links where to find the show and where to find me, because I am an author as well. And I have my books, My Days with the Dark Muse and Love is Worth Waiting For. They're available and they deal with the rock stuff and they kind of are, a little out there. Some of you guys, if you've been following the podcast, you've heard me talk about them. So maybe one day I'll actually read them, but who knows? Actually, on TikTok, there are a couple of places. So anyway, I thank you guys for checking us out. I appreciate you and thank you for making this a reality, because every time you guys listen, I feel like I'm reaching out and connecting with somebody. And during the pandemic and during everything that's been going on, it means a lot to know that somebody out there hears me. So take care and catch you next time. Bye. The Better 2 Podcast with DM Needham.